With the keel to Furutaka having been laid down in December of 1922, the Naval General Staff was ready to order the next class of heavy cruisers for the Imperial Japanese Navy, but this time the design process would be quite different from what Furutaka went through. Throughout Furutaka's design process, the Japanese were closely watching developments with the Washington Naval Treaty, which had yet to be signed and take effect, but it would impact ships that would soon be in service. So, Furutaka was designed with the terms of the treaty in mind, though it was not a treaty cruiser by definition. On the 17th of August 1923, the Washington Naval Treaty would come into effect, having been signed in February of 1922. Once the Washington Naval Treaty came into effect, Japan's 8-8 fleet would expire, meaning the battleships and battlecruisers under construction by this point would have to be halted and either scrapped or converted into a treaty warship. In order to make up for these losses, the Japanese would invest their time and resources into the development and construction of new heavy cruisers, for which, in November of 1923, Japan's lead designer, Hiraga, was sent to the United States for further advancements in the Washington Naval Treaty, meaning for the new heavy cruiser project, Fujimoto, Hiraga's subordinate, would be in charge. This would be the first time Fujimoto got to lead a project independently from Hiraga, and it would set a series of events into motion that would impact Japan's warship development for the next decade. The Furutaka's design was not very satisfactory to the Naval General Staff, whom was taking more modern concepts into mind. So, for the next class, they wanted a ship of similar characteristics, but in a more efficient layout. The 6 20-centimeter main battery guns were expected to be placed in 3 dual turrets, and they were supposed to be supported by a hefty complement of hull-mounted torpedo tubes. It was also required that the new ships have aviation facilities, making them the first Japanese cruisers to be built with a catapult and aircraft crane. The final major requirement was that they were to have improved command facilities, which meant a slightly larger superstructure in comparison to Furutaka. All of these improvements made absolute sense, but mounting them on the Furutaka's hull was dangerous, as it created a ship that was top-heavy, meaning that stability was being sacrificed. Unlike Hiraga, Fujimoto was desperate to appease the Naval General Staff, and so all of the requirements, no matter how contradictory they were, would be implemented into the design. The end result was a ship that was 185 meters long, 17.5 meters wide, it had a draft of 5.6 meters, and a trial displacement of 10,850 tons. The ships were equipped with 12 Campon boilers, driving 4-geared turbines producing 108,456 shaft horsepower, giving the cruiser a top speed of 33.5 knots. Its maximum range was 7,000 nautical miles at 14 knots. For the most part, armor characteristics were identical to that of Furutaka, with the exception of the armor belt, which was 3 inches thick, which was the same as Furutaka, but for the new cruisers, it would be inclined at 9 degrees. The main battery would be made up of 6 Type 3 20-centimeter guns in 3 triple turrets, 2 forward and 1 aft. The secondary battery would be made up of 4 12-centimeter 45 caliber Type 10 high-angle guns, and upon commission, the ships had no anti-aircraft armament. The ships would also be equipped with 12 torpedo tubes, 6 on each side, in 3 pairs of 2. With the improved Furutaka design having been finalized, it was approved, and the first ship was laid down on the 4th of February, 1924, at the Mitsubishi Navy Yard. The ship was launched on the 25th of September, 1926, and completed on the 20th of September, 1927, being commissioned IJN Aoba. The second ship was laid down before the first ship on the 23rd of January, 1924, at the Kawasaki Navy Yard, and it was launched on the 24th of October, 1926, being completed on the 30th of September, 1927, commissioned as IJN Kinugasa. The 2 Aoba-class cruisers were effectively the Furutaka, but in a more efficient layout. For the next class of heavy cruisers, the Naval General Staff wanted to improve the Aoba design, but maximize the terms laid down by the Washington Naval Treaty, creating the world's first true treaty cruisers. The new class of 10,000-ton treaty cruisers were to have an increased offensive capability, meaning more guns. They were to have similar speed characteristics to the preceding Aoba class. They were to have an increased complement of crew, meaning better habitability was necessary, and they were to have better protection. Hiraga, whom was very unhappy with the Aoba's design, would be leading the design process of these heavy cruisers, and he was going to safeguard against the Naval General Staff's requirements as much as possible, so the stability of the new ships would not be sacrificed to any degree. A minimum of 10 20-centimeter guns in 5 dual turrets were to be mounted on the new class of heavy cruisers, and they were to be supplemented by a complement of torpedo tubes, which would make the ship top-heavy. So Hiraga suggested creating a cruiser with 12 20-centimeter guns, 3 turrets forward and 3 turrets aft, but by eliminating the torpedo armament completely. The Naval General Staff would not hear of any designs that did not incorporate torpedo tubes, as mounting torpedoes on the cruisers would give them an excellent advantage over hostile battleships. So it was decided that the ship would retain 10 20-centimeter guns, but it would also have to have torpedo tubes. Once the details around armament had been worked out, the design was created, which was effectively a supersized Aoba. The ships would have an overall length of 204 meters and a beam of 19.5 meters with a draft of 6.3 meters. Their trial displacement would be 14,950 tons. They were equipped with 12 camp-on boilers driving 4 steam turbines, creating 130,250 shaft horsepower, giving them a top speed of 35.5 knots, which was faster than was required. They would also have an increased maximum range of 8,500 nautical miles at 14 knots. The ships would be equipped with 10 Type 3 20-centimeter main battery guns in 5 dual turrets, 3 forward and 2 aft. They would have 6 single-mount 12-centimeter 45 caliber 10th year secondary guns, and no anti-aircraft armament upon completion, but they would also incorporate 12 torpedo tubes, 6 on each side in 3 pairs of 2. These would be the final heavy cruisers Japan would design with hull-mounted torpedo tubes. Finally, the armor was a significant improvement over the preceding classes, with the main belt being 102 millimeters thick at an incline of 12 degrees, and the deck was 35 millimeters. With the design work having been completed, the Naval General Staff accepted the massive cruisers, and the first one would be laid down on the 25th of October, 1924, at the Yokosuka Navy Yard. It would be launched on the 16th of April, 1927, and completed on the 31st of July, 1929, commissioned IJN Myoko. The second ship was laid down on the 26th of November, 1924, at the Kure Naval Yard. It was launched on the 15th of June, 1927, and completed on the 26th of November, 1928, commissioned IJN Nachi. This was the first cruiser of the class completed, though Myoko was ordered and started construction first. The third ship was laid down on the 16th of March, 1925, at the Nagasaki Navy Yard. It was launched on the 24th of March, 1928, and completed on the 25th of April, 1929, commissioned IJN Haguro. This was the second ship of the class completed, though once again Myoko was ordered and started construction first. The final ship of the class was laid down on the 11th of April, 1925, at the Kawasaki Navy Yard. It was launched on the 22nd of April, 1928, and completed on the 20th of August, 1929, commissioned IJN Ashigara. The creation of the 4 Myoko-class heavy cruisers was a defining moment for the Imperial Japanese Navy, as they would use many characteristics created for the Myoko in the upcoming classes of heavy cruisers that would remain largely unchanged until the development of the Tone class. The development of both the Aoba and Myoko classes was rapid, mainly because the ships were ripped directly from the Furutaka's design, with a variety of improvements that are noticeable with each design. At the end of the day, both the Aoba and Myoko classes can be considered massive furutakas. With that having been said, there is nothing more to add on to this topic for today. So, if you have learned something new in this video, why not leave a like and a comment down below, and have a wonderful day.